City Council to order. Our mayor's out of town tonight, so let's put up for me. That being said, Jim is going to do our invocation tonight. Jim?
Thank you. Let's pray together. Gracious Lord, we do thank you so much for the beautiful day, the great weather that you've been giving us. And Lord, we are truly grateful for the rains that you have sent. Lord, we continue to ask for more rain. We know, Lord, that our ground is still dry and we need your touch. And Lord, I just pray for this council. I pray for our city of Clinton. And Lord, I just pray for wisdom. I pray, God, that they would know exactly how to make the right kinds of decisions that would benefit this community and the growth of it. And Lord, I just ask for your Holy Spirit's blessing on all that is done and said. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Phyllis, would you lead our salute?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
What meeting?
Oh, well, see, I told you I didn't know it all. Regular meeting of the Clinton Hospital Authority, Recreation Authority, Airport Authority, and Clinton Solid Waste Authority. Now, can we have the consent agenda? Okay.
So moved.
Second. Trustee Huebman?
Yes.
Trustee Smith? Yes. Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair?
Yes. Action items. Looks like the city manager's report.
Don't really have any for these authorities tonight.
Anything else from the council on these authorities?
I had one question. Steve, on the airport, have we found the water leak?
Well, we did a complete search, and it's actually, we brought Harold Smith back out to help us find that water line. We found the water line, not a particular leak, that it was, we think we had some drainage issues that just made that area very, very saturated. So we shut all the water off to those hangars. And so now we're just waiting for it to dry. Of course, now our rain that we had, which was a good rain, that slowed our project down. So both projects, our project, the FAA, and the Oklahoma Aeronautics project, are both shut down right now. So we'll hopefully see our aeronautics project get back up, kicking here in a couple of days, and wrap up by the 20th of this month. But that particular area around the hangars, we're still have to wait quite a while for that drainage to dry, well, that wet spot around the hangars to dry out. But didn't find a water leak, but obviously I think we had so many issues with that, with cracks and stuff around the asphalt that just saturated that area. When we did have a little rain, it's all rained in one spot. So yeah, we've been working on that, and we'll continue to work on this project. Probably we want a wet fall, and if we get a wet fall, it will actually push this project back though. So this may, and we're trying to work with our folks that are running our hangars to bear with us as we try to wrap this up. But it could be a while with the moisture out there.
They're on top of it. Any other questions from the council? Any questions from anyone in the audience on these authorities? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second.
Trustee Smith? Yes. Trustee Huebman?
Yes.
Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair?
Yes. Okay, now we'll open the regular meeting of the Clinton Public Works Authority. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Trustee Huebman?
Yes.
Trustee Smith? Yes. Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair?
Yes. Action items. Consider proposed refinancing of 2003 bonds. Dave, you want to go into that one?
Absolutely. Council, I'd like to welcome Chris Gander and Bill Strecker here tonight. They brought me some information that really looks to be a good time for us to look to refinance some of our 2003 bonds. I'm actually going to turn it over to them. As they come up, I took potentially look at savings close to $300,000. I think anytime we talk about savings with interest rates as low as they are, we want to consider this, and so I'll turn it over to Chris and walk us through this.
Thanks for having me. I'll quickly tell you who I am, who I'm with. This is Bill Strecker, I'm Chris Gander. Then I'll go over rates in general, refinancing, and then go into the specifics about your
refinancing. We work for a company called BOSC, which is a broker-dealer for Bank of Oklahoma. We're the largest financial institution in the state, largest bank in the country, traditional bank in the country, to not take any TARP money during the 2008 financial crisis. So a very sound institution, not just on a state level, but on a national level. And then the broker-dealer we work for, we've been doing bond issues in the state, and I say we, because it wasn't me, but linked to the company 100 years, and I've been at the firm for 13 years, and Strucker,
And longer.
longer than that, we'll leave it at that.
We
So-
used to be Leo Oppenheim, you probably remember Leo Oppenheim, who started in the state about 100 years ago.
And so actually, these bonds we're talking about, we were your financial advisor on those originally. Leo Oppenheim was, which was bought by BOSC. And then also your last bond issue, I think was the 06, we were financial advisor on that. So I gave you a couple handouts, and I'll start with this one. The top with the maroon graph is basically just a graphic illustration of what, if you've done a 25-year bond issue, what your average rate would have been on that, starting back in 1982 and then coming up to today's rate. So in 1982, and this is a tax-exempt rate, if you'd have issued a tax-exempt 25-year bond, your rate would have been 14%. I mean, that's just around the country, that's what the going rate was. And you kind of see as you go on out to the end, right now it would be 4.31%. And then I've got a blue line representing the 6.58, which has been the average over those approximate 30 years. Going down to the next one, this is just a snapshot of the last 1 year. So it's just taking this little bitty part of the top chart and expanding it. You can see what rates have done in the past year. This is just to kind of illustrate on the refinancing, it's just like refinancing your house. You borrow the money at 5%, rates go down to 3%. If you refinance at the lower rate, you can save some money. And so by these two charts, you can look at clearly where some historically low rates, I mean, the lowest rates you can see in 30 years. So moving on from that, specifically to yours and your numbers and your refinancing or potential refinancing, I've got this table here. And I'm just going to start, kind of go down column by column. You have a 2003 bond issue outstanding. And so I've got maturity dates. You have bonds mature in 2013, 2014, and on out to 2021. And then underneath the blue heading, the 2003 bonds, actual debt service, your payment for the year would be $496,000, and the next year, $581, $580, and so on. My next column, if you refinance, your payment would be $465 in 2013, $547 in 2014, and so on down to the bottom. The last column in the green right here is basically just taking this column minus this column, and that's what your savings would be. So in 2013, instead of paying $496, you pay $465, and it'd save you $30,000. In 2014, instead of the $581, you pay $547, and you save $34,000. With all that being said, the simplest way in my opinion, to look at it is in the blue box, you have the 2003 bonds. The average rate of what you've got standing is 4.27%. If you refinance, our estimate right now is your average rate would be 1.85%. So basically, you've got approximately $4 million of bonds outstanding. You can do nothing and continue to pay 4.27% on that money until it's paid off, or you can choose to refinance it, and our projection right now would be 1.85%. So you'd be going from about 4.25 down to 1.85%. And so our total savings over the life is about $290,000. As bankers, we look at present value and things into today's dollars, and so that's where I get the $266,000 and a present value savings of 6.46%. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes. I went ahead and showed that, some, depending on the community, some people want to pay their debt off early, some people want debt service relief. So option 2 is showing another scenario where we issue bonds in $5,000 increments. I can't get it exactly to the penny, but it's the same scenario. Your first column under the 2003 bonds is the exact same as the one above it. But I structured the new bonds a little bit differently, where your payments almost identical, but we reduce, what we're able to do is basically pay your bonds off a year early. So you're gonna make the same payments till last year, and then the last year you have to pay it off 1 year early. And that would be another option you could do. And the only difference is because you shorten the length of borrowing, instead of being at a 185 rate, you'd be probably a 180 rate. And there's actually a third scenario. Sometimes if a city has a need today and you wanted, back on the present value of $266,000, if you wanted that today, you had a project for it, and this, we have to go back and see what the uses were for the original money. If, assuming it was a qualified use of the proceeds, you could actually get just a check, kind of taking money out. You get a check at closing for that $260,000, and your payments remain the same. And on that, it's not something we recommend one or the other. That's just a personal preference and what the city does or doesn't want to use the proceeds for, and when they want to recognize the savings. So, anybody have any questions?
What are the refinancing costs?
Oh, I think on my numbers, I put about 2.5%, and that would be for our fee, an underwriter's fee, and any council fee, which you have a bond council, generally local councils involved. And so everybody's fees, about 2.5%.
One-time charge.
One-time charge.
And that would be, percent, put it in dollars kind of roughly, how much money is saved?
Well, 2.5% on a million would be 25,000, so this would be around 100,000 for everybody's fees.
Steve, did you talk to them about fee?
Yeah, they brought their fee down, we talked about that. I mean, we really looked at this, and we actually brought in Russ and talked to him a little bit about this, and me and Deborah talked to him, and they did reduce their fees for us to try to get us to as much savings as possible for the city. And our recommendation is we should probably look into this. I think the key would be tonight is which option would you like to look at? Would you like to look at annual savings or a little bit more savings in the long run, but with a quicker payoff? It's just 1 year, but I think that's kind of what direction we'd like to see.
You'd like to see what direction?
Well, I think overall, when you try to save as much money as you can, I think paying our current payment, we can meet that. We don't have any issues with that, and then that saves the most money to our taxpayers here locally, and I think that's would probably be our recommendation.
And on the fees, I mean, when we get hired, I mean, that's kind of our job too, is we help make sure all fees are in line. I mean, we will talk to different attorneys. We're not somebody that's gonna come out here with a team and say, here's the people you need to use. We certainly will call and get bid. If you want us to call 3 attorneys that are reputable in the state, we'll have them send us some kind of bid and say, all 3 of these guys are reputable, and here's their bid. We're not. So my 2.5% is an estimate. The fees will be black and white and written out and before it's final. And the same with the rates. Rates are always changing, but the day the bonds are marketed, there's a thing called the bond purchase agreement, and that's where the underwriter says, here's the rate we're willing to finance us at. We promise to give you these rates, and they sign promising, and then you sign accepting. If you don't like, you don't sign it, and end of the deal, and we can start over another day if rates get better.
Here's how long does the process take, you think?
You really would need to start moving. Your bonds are callable on interest payment dates. And that's not uncommon, but sometimes they're callable on any date. Yours are specifically callable on any interest payment date. So your next interest payment date is January. So to get them called, we need all the money with the trustee and call in January, you'd want to start moving pretty quickly, because you definitely want to have the bonds sold at the very latest early December. I mean, because there's just so many people that just rates kind of tend to go up towards the end of the year because you just have less people looking to buy bonds at the end of the year.
If the council accepted this direction tonight, could the underwriter have information back to him in 2 weeks for him to sign off on? Just lock them in?
Well, no, because the process would be, we'd help select an underwriter and an attorney, we come back, get all official authorization to proceed, then we would come up with, you've seen those OS official documents, we'd have to put a whole sales package together for the when we would actually do that, and then the underwriter would use that to go out and market the bonds, and then they would sign. So I would say after we had official authorization to proceed, we could probably market the bond in 30 days. I was just thinking if we, your next, do you meet every 2 weeks?
First and third.
So you get authorization of the next one, so then we're already 30 days from there, we're already close to the end of November.
Right.
And then we have to, we have to have a couple weeks before we close.
And the council could call a special meeting if the authority could, if needed.
And that's great, so if you need to, I try to avoid that, 'cause I mean, I understand those schedules. But it's, I mean, other than the fees, I mean, it's kind of a, to me, there's not much to think about. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. I hate to say that, but on something like this, it's a no-brainer. You're paying 4.5 and you can get it under 2%. Well, I don't know why you wouldn't do it.
Your fee will be based on the par amount of bonds, not the total.
Correct, par amount loans.
Well, I feel like we need to do this.
Any other questions from the council?
Thank you for ever, Steve, for looking into it for us.
So in reality, then the savings isn't really, I'm kind of behind. The savings would be like, we're gonna pay a closing cost fee, I'm just gonna break it down to small terms. Closing cost fee is somewhere around $120,000 to $150,000. So the net savings is really $150,000.
No, my
No, that's-
numbers are net of all fees.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, that's all net of fees.
Okay. That's
But-
net after the fees then?
Right.
Okay.
So,
It's a true, the number in the black box is true after closing costs.
yeah.
And generally, what we do is we'd rather be more conservative on the numbers than to come back and say, well, the rate's not gonna be 182, it's gonna be 282. But we're thinking right now, it's a little bit higher than what the current market is, but we've got this time frame, and interest rates can jump up and down, and so that's why we're trying to be as conservative as possible.
And the underwriter, there would be, I mean, there's certain underwriters that wouldn't be interested in this size issues, there's certain ones that are, but there's some firms that kind of specialize in bank qualified bonds, and that's something we can get into. That means that the tax exempt status is eligible for banks to take advantage of it. So the bonds will be offered to all your local banks. So if the local bank wanted to buy your 2021 maturity, and that's very common. I mean, normally the banks want to participate in this. They're not excluded from this financing. In fact, they're welcome and generally would take at least historically, I'd say, a pretty good percentage of this.
Any questions from anybody in the audience? Yes?
Is there any penalty or charge when we move from our current loan people for early payoff to change this out?
There's not. Sometimes you have to pay a 1% premium, and yours isn't. It's currently callable at par amount of the bonds.
But then you figure everything with that 2.5%.
Mhm.
Well, I'd make the motion that we go with this project, but I would put in my motion that we go with option number 2, keep our payments the same and pay it off a year early. That's my motion.
I'll second
Trustee Rudolph,
Yes.
trustee Hublin,
it. Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
and vice chair Bruce.
Thank you very much.
We'll move forward. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess under number 5, the city manager's report. Anything
give a quick update on water. We've got our test results back from our well at Haggard Road. DEQ standards, it tested slightly high in uranium. We know that well is running pretty much 24 hours a day now. And so we're going to retest and hoping to get into standards where we can use it at that point in time. Should have it back hopefully in a couple days, maybe possibly.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the test.
So, once we know that, they'll tell us if this particular well is usable or not. We'll move forward to DEQ engineering report and go forward with all the infrastructure, including an agreement with the landowner on usage and stuff. So, just a quick update on that. Really.
Steve, excuse me, how much water does this well produce? I think you told us, but.
Well, it produces right now 800 gallons a minute. Now, we're curious on the permitting, not sure if it's permitted per acre feet for basically 500 gallons a minute or 800. We're going to check with him again. Initially, what he told us would be 500 gallons a minute, which would be, either way would be good. Obviously, 800 gallons a minute would be better. So we'll work on that.
Who analyzed the water? State analyzed?
Yeah, we sent a full DEQ test.
Don't we have a private company? Check in.
Is there,
Yeah, I can get together if you want me to.
Yeah, we'll get our own test in. Yeah, we just want to make sure, we're very close. 30 parts per million is standard. This came at 32, so we're very, very close.
We'll see what,
We'll check
in
again.
2 days, see what it says, and then get somebody private.
So we'll check again, and, because obviously this has an abundance of water.
Yeah, that's my question. How do we know whether to go dry in 6 months? Is there any way you can tell how much water?
Well, we'll have an engineering report that'll get involved if the quality meets the standards, because that DEQ will require that. They'll ask for a full report, and then we'll have to go through we'll have to ask for a public water permit. We have lots to do with this. This won't happen real quick, but the number one issue is does it meet the quality? We can't move forward unless it meets the quality in front of us. So if it does, we'll move forward, because it does have a large amount of water. But I don't know the future, the lifespan of that.
Okay, my next question, does 500, 800, does that mean that our rationing would be over if it was in service, or, I don't know how much water that is?
Well, I think that's a step. I think we'll evaluate it. I think that, does it rationing be over? No, I don't think it's over yet, but I think it's a step forward. Number one, it alleviates our need to buy so much water from FOSS, or in peak times it does cover us. 800 gallons a minute would be a very nice supplement. So we could probably cut back on some of the rationing restrictions that we have in place during the peak times. Number two, we continue to work on trying to get our well rehabs done to put some water into Clinton Lake. Clinton Lake got 2.5 inches. Turkey Creek is slowly running right now into the south pond, so and the ground's very saturated, ready for another big rain. So listen, I think their direction is slow and sometimes monotonous, but it takes the time to work it. We're not using the lake. It is gaining. It will continue to gain. It's there for emergencies. As we know, we've had some issues with FOSS when it goes down. We've got that water source. This would be a great well, and we'll continue to work on our Burns Flat wells. As we also look at wells beyond that in the future.
Do we have any plans to do any more dirt work this fall and winter at Clinton Lake? Any kind of dredging, or are we looking at doing any more of that this year?
Our plan is to dredge once we have some additional water in the lake. I've talked to a dredge guy, and we know that dredging is where we need to take it eventually. We have estimate if we dredged it for 2 years, we would be at a point where it would be definitely back to the original point where that holds a larger bowl of water. Yes, we want to do that. Once we get a water source starts to fill up, starts to expand, we want to do that. Once we get a water source, or it fills up from Mother Nature a little bit more. So, one of the things the runoffs they used to get are not quite as large as they once got because of the ponds up the creek. And so when those are filling up, then they'll start flowing down. So things aren't quite as they used to be.
But you've got to realize that we've been through 2 years of dry weather.
Very dry.
And all of these ponds that are above Clinton Lake are all dry.
Yes.
So they have to fill up first before you have runoff to go into Clinton Lake. But, Bob, to answer your question, if we get a well that'll make 500 gallons a minute, that's nearly 1 million gallons of water a day. That's a windfall, and if you're concerned about it going dry, John Jordan's dad drilled that well. And, back probably 30 or 40 years ago, he irrigated with it, for many, many years. And so if we can get the quality where it needs to be, I think we might not be able to relieve all the rain, but it'll sure make a big difference.
Big difference. And it is Washita Loop. There's an abundance of water in Washita Loop. It's just the quality is always the issue, as Don said. But I want to give you an update on that, and we'll continue moving forward on that. We won't stop, and sometimes it seems like we're not getting anywhere quick, but we're still working it. And that's really all I had in Public Works tonight.
Any questions from the audience on it?
I just have one single question. Is the well water, does it have to be treated?
Yes, it will be treated.
Okay.
Well, that's a well house, it'll have to be chlorinated, it will be treated before it's in our system.
Okay.
It all has to be approved by
It won't be
DEQ.
like pumped to Clinton Lake and treated and then?
No, we will not, we're gonna put it directly into our line that comes from Clinton Lake. That would be our goal, because it's closer.
Thanks, sir.
Where is this well located that we're talking about?
On Haggard Road.
Where?
Out by Haggard Road.
Right south of the
And then
railroad.
we're gonna tap it in, we're gonna treat it there,
That would be.
if we
that would
accept
be-
this well and this production, and then tap it into our line to town?
That would be the goal, yes.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to Clinton Industrial Authority. We've already been there, you guys.
Adjourn this one.
Oh, do you need to adjourn? Let's adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
A second.
Trustee Hulen?
Yes.
Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
Trustee Smith? And Vice Chair.
Yes. Now moving on.
Consent agenda. Consent agenda. This is, I'm sorry, the Industrial Authority.
Now, with the regular meeting of the Clinton Industrial Authority, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Hulen?
Yes.
Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair.
Yes. First action item, request authorization to go to bid on earthwork on Robinson Addition. Can you fill us in on that, Steve?
Council, I got with Joe Ridley, we're ready to go to bid on the earthwork, on this particular project. We're gonna do this first, keep things moving along as he also continues to prepare, documents for the next level, but we'd like to go, this will also help our local, we believe our local contractors to bid on this. Estimated about, $53,000 to $55,000 on the initial work. We'd like to go to bid and get that out.
This is wonderful.
I'd make the motion, we go bid on, direct the city manager, bid document, go bid on the third one.
Second.
I second.
Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Hulen?
Yes.
And Vice Chair.
Yes. City managers report.
Nothing else in industrial.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Hulen?
Yes.
Trustee Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair.
Yes. All right, now we'll open the regular meeting of the Clinton City Council. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Councilwoman Smith?
Yes.
Councilman Hulen?
Yes.
Councilman Rudolph?
Yes.
And Vice Chair.
Yes. First item, consider regarding involvement in Western Technology Center, the fire training project. Steve, I think you're up on that, aren't you?
Yeah, council, I mean, we heard that the potential of the new fire training facility, and I was, Western Technology Center, we've got a couple gentlemen here that are working on this project. I met with them. I know Weatherford's committed $400,000 to their current location. This would be a great project to have in any community. It'll be a great project to have in Western Oklahoma. I appreciate them even moving forward on this. Our department will utilize this in the future. We have a tremendous amount of projects that are currently on our books right now. And a little feedback from the council beyond, but it may not be the best project for us to get involved with financially, with some other outstanding issues like water, our housing addition, and some other things. Support the project, but I wanted to get feedback from you, wanted to bring it to you. so they would know, if you want to be involved or not, as they talk to Weatherford, Elk City, and Clinton, so, thoughts?
What kind of certifications are, this tower, it's my understanding from reading the Clinton Daily News, could provide a annual influx of, 100, 200 firefighters into Clinton for certification? I don't know the scenarios, but.
Well, I mean, I think, maybe they can tell you better than I can, but, I mean, there will be folks that will come to the community and train. I mean, that's obvious. And the benefits, I mean, obviously, you have people in your community. They can tell you the numbers better than I can. I'm not saying that it's not a worthwhile project. I think there's gonna be costs, and you gotta find some acreage, 400,000, I think we would want to at least commit to that. That's what Weatherford committed. But I think there could be some additional costs we want to be involved with, but I don't know. We have other concerns too. I don't want to discourage the project here in Clinton, but we have a water situation we have to solve as well. Would we need to dig a well for them and some things to provide them? I mean, it's a great project, but sometimes, just because it's a great project, it may not be feasible for our community.
I think, I'm just talking, just from thinking about it a little bit, a long-term project of this particular type, those certifications, in my line of work, we're always required to do additional above and beyond, and I don't see that diminishing, especially in a fire capacity or a search and rescue capacity. I receive the Western Technology Center flyers in the mail every quarter or whatever they send, showing the different types of programs they offer at Weatherford and at Sayre and at the Burns Flat campus. And there are some of those that are duplicates. They offer the same program at all three different campuses. This would be something that would be very unique and out of the ordinary that's only offered in Clinton if we were to get involved. And I see a real positive spin on it. I think that it would be nice to have a facility for some type of branch located here. And we would also have some type of a fire training tower that is utilized by all kinds of fire departments in western Oklahoma and northwestern Oklahoma, and where we currently send our people at this point.
We could send them to Lawton, we could send them to Stillwater. We would send them to this facility if it was here, Elk City, Weatherford.
I personally think it would be something we should look into, but I think long-term, you're looking at something that's not going to diminish in value. I mean, those certifications that are required are going to be required from here till whenever. That's just my thought.
Steve, what about the classroom? What are you going to do with what?
Well, and I don't think they know. I don't think that they'll eventually need a classroom. I think that it could be in the future. I don't want to speak for Western Technology. I don't think they've got a for sure plan exactly how it would work, except trying to find out the involvement that which city would like to be involved. I think if you're going to be involved, I think you need to be prepared to spend $1 million. That's my opinion. But I don't know. I don't think they know. But if you want to commit $400,000 and 10 acres, and we can come up with a location, we can sure do that. You have to be aware, though. I think any dollars you do put towards it, I think you have to decide where that money comes from. Capital improvement dollars. I don't disagree that the payback is people here in town spending money. I mean, I think to a certain extent there is some of that, but we need some. I guess this is the feedback we need. I guess
I would just like some more information on the types of certifications that are currently our people are currently required to have and hold, and what type of attendance we would be possibly expecting on an annual basis at this facility.
Well, I think the question is it an 8-week program? I know it's continuing ed, but how often are classes and about class sizes, that kind of thing. But the first thing that my question is, where do we have 10 acres right now that we know we can dedicate to that? The type of training that's going to happen with the trucks, and that's mind right now. So maybe they can answer those questions for us better, but.
Is,
Yeah, I'd love
Ray,
to-
is 10 acres, is that something that's set in stone, or is that just something that, I mean, is that just a guesstimate?
Is that a minimum or?
Yeah.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that that was a minimum, no. I would think that, but that would leave where you wouldn't have to worry about being able to get something else to expand if you needed to.
Well, I'm sure, Ray, they should have done a feasibility study. What amount of usage do you anticipate of this facility?
At this point in time, the training on the tower itself that we would do, I don't know how often the firemen have to recertify, but almost every fireman in western Oklahoma is up to the point where they have to have, or have to go someplace where there is a tower to train to advance from where they are.
And are volunteers now also required, like the EMTs and our volunteers?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking, okay.
Steve, why don't you, we'd like to get a little bit more.
I was gonna say, we don't really have enough information to make a decision.
I don't know if we're gonna get any more information. I don't think they know the cost. I think they're trying to find a commitment from you, if you're interested or not. If you're interested, then I think you need to let them know you're interested, and I think that's what you wanna let them know tonight. They will be able to provide more information to us at a later date. I mean, you guys tell me, I don't know, I mean, we can get more information, but do you have more information on costs? And
I would say I do not have, personally have more information. I would be glad to see what I can do about obtaining more information or getting hold of somebody that can provide that to you.
Why don't we do that? I personally would be willing to commit $400,000 to lighting more
Information, yeah, I agree with that. So we want to table it for tonight? Okay, we have a motion to table, second.
we'll try to get you more information when it comes available. So you get a better idea.
We have a motion?
Yeah, I'll
Okay, any second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
And
I'm
thank you.
trying to take your jobs.
Councilman Rudolph?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes.
Councilman Hewland?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor?
Yes, this is different than most of
Would love
these.
to.
All right. Next item is consider resolution number 805 regarding establishing procedure of vacating plats in public ways.
I move we adopt resolution number 5 with the emergency.
Second.
What is it?
The material is on the alleys we vacated.
I didn't get any material this week.
Well, basically, Bob, after going through our closing of our alley,
Okay.
Brian got with me and stated we did not have a policy procedure in our code book that's required by state statute. Am I got that right? And this does that for us, brings us up to where we need to be.
And essentially all it does is adopt the state statute that says, hey, you gotta have a procedure. So we took their procedure.
Any questions from anyone else on the council? Any questions from the audience? And John made a motion, and Jason seconded?
Yes.
All right.
Councilman Rudolph?
Yes.
Councilman Hewland?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor?
Yes. City managers?
Just an update, I mean, as you know, we have board meetings the 15th, 22nd. There's a mayoral forum in here the 23rd and the 29th. So that's really all I have tonight. Just remind us what things. Continue continue to try to answer questions about recycling in that program as well.
That's when we'll have more questions probably.
We'll continue, and if we need another one, we'll have another.
Okay.
We could appreciate Jared's input about voting. I see a couple of people kind of going back, hopefully they're registering to vote, so I think that was a good addition tonight.
Your motion to adjourn.
So
Make a motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Huglen,
Yes.
Councilman Rodoff,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor.
Yes.